This is the One Pebble Podcast. I'm your host, Kristine. Welcome to the One Pebble Podcast. Today, it brings me tremendous joy to be sitting down and having a conversation with my father, and I would call him my hero on earth. Dad, I'm so excited to visit with you today. We're going to have so much fun, and I so appreciate you sharing your heart with us today. Before we get started, I thought it'd be fun for you and I to kind of get in the mood, get in the spirit, and loosen up.
Well, I'm in the mood.
Wonderful. I know you're full of spirit and excited, and I am too. But you know what? Before we get deep into conversation, would you just sing a little bit of the Auctioneer song with me? Just one verse to kick this off.
Yeah.
Will you do it with me? Here they are. You go ahead. Do that, Dad.
Here they are coming out of gate 29 now. What are you going to give them?
There was a boy from Arkansas, wouldn't listen to his ma when she told him that he should go to school. He'd sneak away in the afternoon, take a little walk, and pretty soon he'd wind up at the local auction barn. And then he'd stand and listen carefully, and pretty soon he began to see how the auctioneer could talk so rapidly. Said me, oh my, it's do or die. I've got to learn that auction cry to make my mark and become an auctioneer. $25 bid now, $30 bid, make it 30 bid, a 30 bid about 30 now, who bid about a $30 bid. $30 bid now, 35 will you, make it a 5 bid, a 5 bid about a 5 now, who bid about a $35 bid. Sold, I sold that hog for a $30 bill. Woohoo! Woo! Woo! Dad, when I listen to you sing that song, I think of the decades and decades of parades. You love to sing in parades. You love to sing the Auctioneer song. You love to sing, and I'm excited to share more about that journey and ask you so many more questions. But I think what we're going to do is I want to start when you were a little boy. And one of my things that I admire so much about you is, Dad, you've been super courageous and you've lived a life of gratitude. You've had a never give up spirit, and we're going to talk a lot about that today. You've lived a life of service and purpose, and I am so excited to visit with you and learn from you. And I think when people listen to this today, they're going to be inspired and educated and be reminded of the purpose in their own life that they're currently doing, or maybe even just realize that with one act of courage or to take that next step that you've done oftentimes in your life. And I know that your life has come with a lot of adversity, but you have overcome that with a tremendous attitude and a never give up spirit. There's something I do want to say on a sincere note. There'll be people listening to this that have lost children, have lost spouses, have lost grandparents, or have lost their father at a much, much younger age. And I'm mindful that you're still here, Dad, at 82 and a half.
Well, I thank you. I thank you very much.
Only by the grace of God, but
he gets all the credit.
He does. He gets all the credit, and I'm mindful that not all of us are given an 80-year contract, and my heart goes out to people that have lost loved ones. Dad, let's start when you were a little boy. You grew up on a farm northeast of Willmar, Minnesota.
There you go, 7 miles.
It was a dairy farm, and I know you walked to school, 7 miles uphill both ways and then back again. But what was it like growing up on a dairy farm?
What it was like growing up, we milked cows. 30 cows in those days was kind of a big deal because of the fact that And we had a beautiful barn that Grandpa, my grandfather Sigurd, had built, and that type of thing. And it was, and they did a great job of taking care of it. But the difference of it is, so it looked superb, and it looked, it looked, it looked like you would go into that dairy barn and grab a glass of milk from a fresh cow and just go ahead and drink it. I mean, it was that clean and looked that good. Although, let me tell you something. In the coldest of winter, we got pretty much a ride to school, but hardly ever got a ride home from the school. So we'd have to walk home, and, we lived in the Norwegian hills. So, it wasn't uphill both ways. That's a little lie. But the difference of it is that you had to go steep up one craft and then down the other side, and the likes of that, and many nights. And here's one thing that's amazing to me, and I still haven't forgotten this. And the old railroad track, which is now a DNR trail, was kind of a super special type of a place, because it wasn't it was one of our friends, Lowell Ekbaum, used to say, well, today we'll set a penny on the railroad track and see what it looks like after the train's gone by. You set a penny on the railroad track, let me tell you something, it's about this big around, because I'll never forget that.
When we were little, you would do that with us kids. We'd set a penny on the railroad track and come back and look at it. Dad, you've often told me that your grade school teacher, Virginia Johnson, in those days you went to country school, think a Little House on the Prairie, where the same teacher probably taught all 7 grades. She swept the floor. She did the whole 9 yards. But I think one of the stories that resonates with me as to a time in your life where you were kind of faced with courage. And this is a story that you've told me often, because you actually started kindergarten when you were 4, and confidence did not come natural for you your whole life. You had to learn confidence. You had to learn to kind of hold your head, shoulders, and heart high over the decades. But that teacher, Virginia Johnson, she realized that you had a really good voice, and she approached you. You'll have to remind me the grade. And she said, Dale, will you sing, I think it was White Christmas, will you sing a solo? Tell us, bring us back to what was that like, and how did you feel when you sang that solo?
Well, that's very true, because Virginia Johnson was the one. Let me take you back to this. That going to grade school, at least in our grade school, District 60 in Green Lake Township, Candy, Ojai County, and I don't know what they did in the other schools, but it was a part of the curriculum. But, not every day, but every second or third day, we would sing out of the, and it was a handout type of thing. And some of those songs that we sing, I still remember. It was hard to believe. My grandfather's clock was too large for his shop, so it stood 90 years on the floor. It was taller by half than the old man himself, though it weighed not a penny, weighed more.
Woohoo!
And that's just a part of it. But anyway, I still remember those songs.
So what grade were you in when your teacher, Virginia Johnson, said, Dale, I want you to do a solo?
Well, I did a solo many years for the Christmas program. Let me tell you something. The Christmas program was a big deal because of the fact that it was something that even the grandfathers and the grandmothers showed up for. So that was a big deal. And putting up the stage was even a bigger deal because of the fact that you kind of got to work with. And I kind of even loved to be a carpenter at the time. I used to pound a few nails and so on and so forth. And So we had little stage platforms that we sat these planks on and that type of thing, and from we put up a wire and you'd open the curtain. When the curtain opened, you were supposed to be Jack Parr or somebody, and that type of thing. But anyway, going to grade school, and let me say this, that so it was this way that that Virginia Johnson asked me to sing. And I think you're right, Chris. I think it was White Christmas. But anyway, at Christmas time, at the New London High School, and I was scared to death. I was just scared to death, and that type of thing. And she said, "Yeah, you can do it, Dale. You can do it. You can do it. I've heard you sing, and you can do it." So anyway, the time came, and it went pretty fast, and she was right. I did do it, and I could do it, but. And that's. I mean, I'm sorry if I'm being a little windy here, but I'm just telling you the truth.
No, and that's part of the reason why it's so fun to visit with you about your life. Because, Dad, for my life, we're all faced with decisions and dreams and forks in the road and promptings and pebbles. It's the One Pebble Podcast, and we all have decisions to make. And things can be scary. Fear is true for all of us. But throughout your life, and I'm so excited to hear more about it today and to share with our listeners, you've had to choose courage often over fear, even at the young age of singing White Christmas.
And you know why you fear it so bad is because you think you might fail. Failure is a big thing.
That's so true.
You just didn't know if you could do it or not. Especially, a big thing that I feared was to sing the song in front of so many people. I mean, the auditorium was full. But something I had to do then, and I still have to do, is when you get in front of a crowd, whether you're in church or singing at a wedding or whatever you do, you just kind of got to put yourself in a different world, and the likes of that, and pretend that you're singing to the wall or whatever.
That's true. And sometimes I like to say, that I'm trying to live for an audience of one, and that would be Christ. And so
that's right.
Who cares what everyone else thinks? But if we live for an audience of one, our Maker, then it really doesn't matter. I want to fast forward till you were in high school. I might embarrass you a little bit today, but that's okay.
I can be embarrassed.
I've
been embarrassed before, Chris.
I've asked you my entire life. So you met Mom at the Spicer roller rink, and I've said my entire life, I've said, who chased who? You met at the roller rink, and you've been now married for 58 years. And I've asked you over and over, who chased who? And I've never gotten a straight answer.
No, that's, Chris, I'm sorry to say this, but that's your problem if you don't think that you've been given a straight answer, because I think probably the feeling was mutual because of the fact that she wanted to skate with me, and I think I wanted to skate with her. And I thought she was the cutest little thing in the whole roller rink at the time.
I love it. And then you get married, and sadly, the story today, it's going to come with positive things and sad things, but the main message is how much you've overcome by the grace of God. You and Mom get married. I believe you were about 24 years old. And
right on.
The night of your wedding, you say goodbye to your father-in-law, your new father-in-law, Mom's dad, and you never saw him again. He passed away when you were
that's right, and that's really sad.
52 years old of a heart attack.
Heart attack.
And back then you didn't have cell phones, and you drove a car out to see your Uncle Ray Fladeboe, who we all loved. And you're out in California for 2 weeks and having the time of your life. By the way, I have to embarrass you again. You have told me over and over you had the opportunity to see Elvis Presley. $12 for Dale, $12 for Grace.
No, you're wrong.
And you said no.
Chris, wait a minute. Now, let me straighten you out a little bit. When you talk of me that I'm 82 and a half, you always say, Dad, don't forget the half. I'm 80. I tell him I'm 82, but you always say, and Chris is right, that I'm 82 and a half. But let me tell you about Elvis Presley. It was $12.50 to see Elvis Presley in person. But that'd be $25 for the pair of us, for the two of us. And like I said, we didn't think we could afford it. So we didn't do it, which was, stupid. It was unbelievably stupid. Chris, he's known as the king of rock and roll. The king.
Well, you missed the king. But you did see a pretend king of rock and roll in Branson just a few weeks ago, an Elvis impersonator, and you enjoyed that.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
I hate to interrupt you, but listen to this. Some impersonators are so good that I would have swore that the impersonator I saw in Branson, Missouri, he looked as good as Elvis, and he could sing. Maybe he could even sing a little better than Elvis. I'm not sure, but he was fantastic. He's the best one I've ever seen. Fantastic.
I love it. So then you're coming back. You're 24 years old. Mom's just a bit younger than you. You're coming back from a 2-week honeymoon that you drove to California, and you get to your sister Betty's, and she says, I want you to sit down, and they told you that Mom's father, your new father-in-law, had just passed away at 52. And I bring that up not to tell sad stories, but that was great adversity for you and Mom at 24 years old. At 24 years old. That was difficult. But Dad, I want to say one more thing, and then I want to hear a little bit about that adversity. Then you go from 24 to 30, and when you were 30 years old, your father passes away from a cancerous brain tumor. So you lose both your dads. You were 24 with your father-in-law, and you were 30 with your own dad. And the Lord is still good. Again, we don't come with an 80-year contract, but through all of that, there was a lot of adversity for you and Mom at a young age.
Oh, very much so. Very much so, because and it hurt your mother way harder. And if there's such a thing as a called worser, that might fit into the program here. But the difference of it is that, she was really tore up by it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and I know with your own father's passing, that was extremely difficult and unexpected. I was about 2 months old when he passed away. Mm-hmm. And
1973.
A man that you greatly enjoyed. Both men you greatly enjoyed.
Yeah.
Then at 30 years old, you had been thinking about going to the auction school. And you had told Mom for about 5 years, maybe 7 years, that you wanted to be an auctioneer. It was a dream of yours. But you've told us kids that what you often did is when you were young, you would go to the sale barn and you'd see the auctioneers sell cattle when you were a little boy. Your dad would take you to the sale barn. If you were lucky, maybe you would get a Coca-Cola or a hamburger, and you were always mesmerized by the auctioneer. And so if I could speak for you, what you've said to us kids, meaning my sister Kimberly, who's an auctioneer, my brother Glenn, who's an auctioneer, for a long time, you wanted to be an auctioneer. And this isn't to make you feel bad, because I think in the end, God's timing was perfect. But you were too scared. You were scared to go. You were scared of failure.
Because I thought I would fail. It's the same thing.
Yep.
Same thing. And sometimes, you just have to work through that failure type of thing and the likes of that, because if you don't put your best foot forward or whatever and, try to work through those mental, and you know what it is? It's all in the mind. The majority, I think it's in the mind. And the likes of that, of being scared because of the fact that many, many times, it's like an old friend of mine, Freddie Zwart. You know what he said? He said, Dale, let me tell you something. He'd look at me and I'd say, Dale, if there was something you couldn't change, absolutely you couldn't change it, he'd say, Dale, what could I say that would make a difference?
I loved Freddie. When you were deciding to go to auction school, finally, I got to give Mom some credit. I want to give you both credit. But you wanted to go. Finally, Mom said after about 5 years, Dale, you've been telling me for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, however many years, at 35 years old, she said, I want you to go to auction school and I want you to believe in yourself. But prior to that, you know what you had told Mom? It's one of my favorite stories. You said to Mom, actually you said it for many years, I'm going to do one of two things. I'm going to buy a herd of dairy cattle, or I'm going to go to auction school. Well, not only did you grow up on a dairy farm, but Mom grew up on a dairy farm. And you've always told us kids, the hardest working people probably in the world is the dairyman, the dairy woman.
The dairy farmer.
The dairy farmer.
Nobody works harder.
Nobody works harder. And
Chris, let me interrupt you.
Yes.
7 days a week, twice a day, 365 days a year, they milk the cows.
Just think of
milk
that.
Milk the cows. Who else I shouldn't say in their right mind, because there's a lot of people that do it and the likes of that, but who would, who could work that hard? I tip my hat to them and give all the credit in the world to the dairy farmers, because they are incredibly hard workers and good people.
I do too. And what you have said so many times is it wasn't to put down to the dairy farmer, but a compliment to the dairy farmer. They work so hard that, and you both had grown up on dairy farms, and you had decided that I'm going to go to auction school because nobody works harder than the dairy farmer. And that wasn't the first passion you had. And that amount of commitment and hard work to be a dairy farmer really pushed you in another direction. So off you go to auction school. And I love this story. It's 2 weeks long back then. And you said to Mom, if I don't like this, will you pick me up in 2 days? And she said, heck no, I won't pick you up in 2 days. So she was feeding the steers back home. I know you had steers back home.
I have to give her a lot of credit, because she fed the cattle when I was at the auction school. Lots of, how many girls would do that?
I love it.
Unbelievable.
And when you went to auction school, I know you took your guitar and you met 100
I
new.
did take the guitar.
100 new friends from all walks of life. I know you were scared to go, but something you've told very few people that us kids know about, and Mom, that makes me so, so proud. When you left auction school, there was only one person that was voted by their peers most likely to succeed. And if those peers would have only known you were scared out of your mind to go to auction school. But there again, and whatever I say to compliment you today, Dad, God gets all the glory. Not you. He gets all the glory. But through the grace of God and through believing in yourself, you put one foot in front of the next. And you go scared out of your mind. And you meet 100 new friends from all walks of life. and somehow the day you were going to go home, you were shocked because your classmates had voted you most likely to succeed. Tell us about what that felt like, Dad. What was that day like to be voted most likely
I wish
to
Mom
succeed?
could have been there, and the likes of that for our graduation. There was a graduation of the Reach Worldwide College of Auctioneering, and that type of thing. And there was 126 students. And someday I'll get that. And I've had it. It hung on the wall for many years. And I don't know, either you or Mom took it up in the, I don't know, some closet upstairs.
We got to hang that back up.
I don't know where it's at. But it's there. There was 126 students in the class. And why they ever did that is more than I'll ever know. But anyway, be that as it may, it was a good time. It was a good time. Special day.
Then, Dad, you come home and you decide first generation auctioneers, very, very, very few make it. I think the statistic is like 3%. And you decided that you wanted to hang your hat with Mr. Abner Jacobson from Benson, Minnesota, if he'd possibly take you under his wing. So you, nothing short of begged him for a job. Begged him.
Well, I went up to see him 4 different times. And he was a John Deere dealer and that type of thing, and had been an auctioneer for 25 years already. And that type of thing. So I and Mom went to Benson, Minnesota, which from Willmar is 25 miles away, 25 to 30. And we sat there all day waiting to talk to Abner Jacobson because he was he had an office, but he wasn't in his office. And having said that, I went up and talked to the parts man. I said, "Is Abner around?" "Oh no, but he'll be back soon. He'll be back soon." So I thought, well, we waited another hour, maybe a half an hour, and that type of thing. And he didn't come back, and he didn't come back, and he didn't come back. Well, what we found out later is that he was working at a big auction with another auctioneer and that type of thing that was going to take the rest of the day. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, we had an auction on September 13th at Stan Eberlin, a guy that I had hunted deer with for many years. Not many years, but in those days, even if you hunted for 5 years, was quite a few. Okay? So anyway, Stan Emberlin wound up with cancer, passed away at the age of 66, and that type of thing. And I was lucky enough to get his sale and the likes of that. So I went back to Abner Jacobson and told him, I said, because I thought I was going to get the sale, but I wasn't sure. I said, if I ever get a sale of my own, I said, would you help me with the sale? So he went. When Abner got serious, his lips would come out and he'd go, "By golly, Dale, I'll tell you," and he had a deep voice. "Dale, I'll tell you, you gotta let me know early because I'm pretty busy, awfully busy, Dale." So anyway, about 2-3 months after that, I finally went up there and I told him, I said, "Abner, I got the sale and it's going to start at a certain time. We got a date picked out and so on and so forth." I said, "Are you open that day?" "By golly, I am, Dale. I am open. Yeah, I'll come down and help you with it." And that's the way it started. And after the sale was over, he looked at me, and I'll never forget Stan Everland's sale. And his wife, Sylvia, had died probably 5 years before he did. And it was just a household sale, but lots of, in those days, glassware and carnival glass and depression glass sold by a big time. I mean, you hold up a plate of carnival glass, especially if it's green, and ask for $35, and they probably not 35, but I'll give you 25. And in today's world, let me tell you something. They're down about 50% of what we sold them for in those days. Not to say that that's a big thing. I'm just telling the truth. Is all I'm doing.
And I what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain about 20 years of your life. Abner Jacobson said yes to you. You said yes to him. And you had about a 25-year relationship. At the same time, you're an auctioneer. And by the way, I have to compliment Abner Jacobson. Us kids have learned, meaning us, my auctioneer siblings and myself, we have learned so much from Abner Jacobson. You learned so much. We couldn't have been more thankful for those 25 years. At the same time that you were selling all those sales with Abner, learning from Abner, getting a few sales of your own, you are farming. You're in the field. You have beef cattle back home. You're a cattleman. You're a farmer. You're auctioneering. You had your real estate license. You're a husband. You're a dad. And us kids, two stories that I think about often from my childhood. Dad, I loved snowstorms, and I'll tell you why. There was never a shortage of love in the home that we grew up with, and I'm so, so thankful for that. But you taught us to work hard. I always saw you cheerleading us kids, supporting us kids, being very loving.
Can I interrupt you a second? You know what it was called? All in the Family.
It was all in the family.
All in the family, making wood and taking that in so that it could dry out so that we could burn it.
Yeah, we did all in the families. We'd cut wood, haul wood,
we had bucket brigades
pick rocks, pick mustard, the whole 9 yards. And I'm so thankful for that work ethic. But here's why I love snowstorms. Dad, you would stop working and you'd come in the house and you'd get out your guitar and we'd pop popcorn and we played games, ate popcorn, sang songs, and it was so fun to be snowed in as a family. I have wonderful memories. I have wonderful summer memories when you were out in the field and you'd be out on your tractor and it'd probably be 10 or 10:30 at night and you'd come home and you'd have dirt all over your face. And us kids would be in
the true look of a farmer,
The true look of a farmer. You could barely see in your ears from the dirt, barely see the whites of your eyes. And we'd be in our jammies, us kids. But you know what you would say? Kids, we're going to go to the Dairy Freeze in Spicer. You're going to all jump in Green Lake to cool off and to clean up. Instead of taking baths, we didn't have enough hot water. We took some baths, I will say. But if we could jump into Green Lake as kids and clean up. And then
there was nothing better than jumping in Green Lake.
That was a big deal growing up with Dad and Mom to jump in Green Lake. And then if we'd maybe have 5 minutes left before the Dairy Freeze would close, we didn't get to do this often, but you would take us to the Dairy Freeze. And you would sit in the car and you'd give us a little bit of money for a cone. And you would always want a malt.
Yes. One more interruption.
Yeah.
In those days, it only took a little bit of money because 25 cents would buy quite a bit. It's a Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
Dairy Freeze, Dairy Queen. There was a Dairy Freeze in Spicer, Dairy Queen, Willmar.
And
take your pick.
And then I'll never forget, you'd rarely come up to the window because you told us kids, tell the person working at the window that I want extra, 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 extra. That's 5 extras malt powder. And so I
loved it, Chris.
You to this day you love. We're going to go to the Dairy Queen later today to celebrate.
I'm sure.
The other thing I'll say that I've got a really good memory, going out to eat was a really big deal as kids. We rarely went out to eat. I have memories of we maybe went out to eat on our birthdays, but twice a year we'd go out to eat. We'd go to Perkins for strawberry pancakes when you got the crop in the field. Then we'd go back out to Perkins for strawberry pancakes after the harvest. And it was a rare occasion to go out to eat, and I have such good memories. But I remember you, Dad, and Mom gets equal credit. There was never a shortage of love and hard work, and I'm so thankful for all those years growing up on the farm, the cattle, the
pulling cabs,
Christmas time, just working hard to get the auction business started, working hard in the field. And your love of people, like to this day, people are your heartbeat. You love people so much. But you equally loved to be on that tractor. And you'd come home from a long auction and you wouldn't have to please anyone. It would just be you and the Lord out on the tractor. And so I'm thankful, Dad, and I'm thankful to Mom for how hard you worked and the values that you instilled in us kids. But I want to talk about when you were 57 years old, 58, I think. I'll never forget it. We're coming up on 25 years. This is just shy of 25 years ago. And I'm pregnant with our daughter, Elsie, and I get a phone call that you've had a heart attack. And I'll never forget it. I got to Rice Memorial Hospital, and I'm so thankful again. One more time, anything I say today, God gets all the credit, not Dale, not the hospital, not the doctors, not anyone but the Lord. But we get to the hospital, and I meet you before you get on the helicopter, and we prayed together, and I never knew if I'd see you again. You get to St. Cloud. You'd had a major heart attack. They fixed you up. Lots and lots of heart damage.
One stent.
And I'll never
forget.
forget.
It was blocking a major artery. And I'm the furthest thing in the world from a doctor, so I couldn't tell you.
And
I couldn't tell you which one.
You'd been in the hospital about 8 days because you had a really low ejection fraction. Your heart was very, very damaged. And I'll never forget Dr. Applin said to us kids, I said, Dr. Applin, do you think we could ever have Dad, ever, for 10 years? Is there any way? I know that, we're not entitled to anything, but do you think we could ever have Dad for 10 years? And Dr. Applin said, let's just get through this first year. Let's try to get through this first year. Dad, that's almost 25 years ago. But right before you got out of the hospital, you had a setback. You were excited. You had one stent. You had lived. And you were just about to go home. And I'll never forget the doctors up in St. Cloud. And by the way, St. Cloud Hospital Heart Center, thank you for all you've done. But they said, you need to have a defibrillator. Your heart's so damaged that we're worried that it will stop.
And so it's right there.
It's right there. You can feel it. And they said before you go home, you were going to go home that day.
And they're very common today.
And they said before you go home, we are going to put a defibrillator in your body. And I remember you being nothing but grateful, but discouraged. That was a tough day because you thought you were going to go home.
Well, Uncle Ray was home hunting ducks, and that's what I wanted to do. So bad.
Well, let me take it from there. Then you come home, and it was either this time or another time, but I believe your neighbors were harvesting your crop. When you came home from the hospital, we both just cried and cried and cried, and Mom too, because the neighbors were out in the field, hadn't been asked to do this, and they were harvesting your crop. That was such an honor for you and so humbling to see. But here's what I admire so much, Dad. I'll never forget that first heart attack. I'll never forget them putting a defibrillator in and you being a young man. And although you had tough days, there was days that you were disappointed, there was days you were sad. You are a normal, imperfect person with tough days, but you decided, I'm going to choose joy. I am going to have my glass half full, not half empty, and I'm never going to give up. And I'm going to talk about 2 more things, and then I want you to talk about never giving up. Then, a couple years later, you, Dad, myself, your neighbor who's passed away, Newell Nilsson, and our daughter Elsie, 21 years ago, Harris was a baby in the house with Mom. I had just had him. We get in a really bad draft horse accident. Think Little House on the Prairie one more time. And the wagon tips over, the horses are running, everyone flies out. By the grace of God, we all live. You're hurt, the neighbor's hurt. That could have ended so differently. I don't know if we should call it a miracle or not, but that was a ton of adversity. But Dad, I'm going to say one more thing. Couple years after that, you're 65 years old, and you're supposed to sing the Lord's Prayer at Glenn and Stephanie's wedding. And this is, if I do my math right, this will be 18 years. We're coming up on 18 years. That's 65. And that day you're supposed to sing the Lord's Prayer, and we get a knock on the door, and it's Mom. We're all in the Twin Cities. We're excited for the wedding day. And Mom says Dad is sick. Dad, that morning you had a big stroke. We prayed all the way to Abbott, all the way to Sister Kinney. You missed the wedding. You didn't get to sing that day.
No.
But we were the lucky ones. And then you spent 3 weeks in Sister Kenny. You learned to re-walk. I don't know if that's the right English, but that's what I'm going to call it.
Hardest thing I ever done in my life.
You learned to walk again, Dad. You learned to talk. You could barely talk. And the last thing you could do, Dad, was be an auctioneer. And I came to visit you day after day after day, and I had no idea what your life would look like after that day. Tell us a little bit for the listener today that's either has gone through a tough thing or going to go through a tough thing or currently in a tough thing. Of all the health challenges you've had, you have said the hardest thing you've ever done. And the hardest thing for your mind to have the right mindset and to keep believing in yourself and to you wondered and wondered, what is my life going to be like? What am I going to regain? And I'm mindful, Dad, lots of people don't regain these things. They either don't live through them or they don't get to talk again. They don't get to walk again. You're just simply one of the lucky ones. But Dad, when you said that's the hardest health challenge you've ever gone through, tell us, what does it look like to never give up? Bring us back to some of those tough days.
Well, the hardest thing I've ever done in my life at 65 years old was to learn to walk for the second time. That was just miserably tough. But I give the credit not only to the good Lord, but to Sister Kenny, who said I could do it.
They said you could do it. Even before you believed you could do it.
Yeah. And it happened right there about Christmas time. And Sister Kenny came to me and they said, Dale, but I was walking with 2 bars and that type of thing because, let me take you back to the stroke. I'm laying in bed. And it's 6:30 in the morning, and Glenn is supposed to get married, at 8 o'clock at night, thereabouts?
Probably 5 o'clock, but close enough.
It doesn't make any difference. But the thing about it is that Glenn was going to get married that night, and that type of thing. And I rolled over in bed, and I've already told you I was in bed. I rolled over in bed from my left side to my right side, and just something happened. it's hard to explain. And I didn't think I was dying. I knew I was dying. I didn't think so. I knew so. And all of a sudden it went away. And I told myself, well, what was that? What's that all about? So I put my feet out on the edge of the bed and I said, I've got to go to the bathroom and see if I can figure this out. So I stood up and I fell right back down again. And I couldn't walk, but I could crawl. And I crawled to the bathroom. You and Kim took me over to Abbott.
And Mom.
And that type of thing. And from there, how long was I in Abbott? A week?
You were in Abbott a week and Sister Kenny 3 more weeks, I believe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But at Sister Kenny, I give them a tremendous amount of credit because of the fact that I was walking. I learned to walk with these bars because I could support myself, but my balance was gone. My balance still isn't like it should be. But anyway, having said that, it was this way that, yes, I did. I missed the wedding and the likes of that. But when I came into Abbott, I was so sick. I was just so sick that, and I told him, I said that, I mean, when you're that sick, you don't really care if you live or die.
But when you got to Sister Kenny, you had a choice to make. I'm either going to give up and this is only going to get as good as, your healing was only by the grace of God. And at the end of the day, it was going to be His plan. But you, in your humanness, had a choice to make. And you were either going to work at it and choose positivity and choose to believe in yourself and choose not to give up and choose to be courageous, or you were going to give up. Those were some tough days. We cried those days. We laughed those days. But you chose to never give up. And
right.
I'm thankful for that example.
Once again, let me interrupt you. At that point in time, when you're that sick, it's totally up to the good Lord. Whether He wants to keep you around, I'm sorry to say this, but whether He wants to keep you around or not, and that type of thing, it's just this way that I was so sick that, like I said, it really didn't make any difference if I died or not. When you get sick enough that you don't care if you go or not, and somebody yet saves you, you wake up in the morning and you still can't walk, you can't really talk very good, you can't do this, you can't do that, but
you never gave up.
Well,
then you started working and working and working and working.
Yeah.
And 3 weeks later, you came
the
home.
The Lord gets all the credit.
Yep.
Or I would have been gone many times, many moons ago.
I'm going to say a couple more of those times. So then, and I'm only highlighting the big things. There's a whole bunch of small things. I can't even remember the year, but you double broke your ankles one year. One year in your log house, you were rewiring your fan and you fell off and broke not one, I think, but maybe 2 wrists.
Your memory's pretty good, Chris.
One year, you sit up in the St. Cloud Hospital for a week with a blood clot in your lungs. But I want to talk about the second draft horse accident. So after the stroke at 65, some of those things I just listed happened. But then in your early 70s was your second draft horse accident. And I forgot to tell him when you were 58 and you had the heart attack That was your first helicopter ride to the St. Cloud Hospital. In your early 70s, when you had the second draft horse accident, that was your second helicopter ride to the St. Cloud Hospital. And you were so hurt, you had cut your leg to the bone from your knee to your ankle. And they told Mom, we don't know if he'll be alive when you get to the St. Cloud Hospital. Some of your dear friends had put a tourniquet on your leg, and here you are to tell the story, and we're super grateful. Then after that, Dad, 4.5 years ago, when you're 78 years old, I'll never forget it. I get a call at 6:15 in the morning, and it's Mom. And Mom says, the helicopter's on its way. We're in Willmar. The helicopter's on its way for the third time. And I said, is Dad okay? She said, it's his heart. And I said, I'll be right up to St. Cloud. But I'll never forget it. I stood outside. We're right in the flight path of the helicopters. And I waited and I waited and I prayed on that road. Gosh, I'm sorry to cry so much today. I'm crying mostly happy tears. But it was a windy, windy day, so they took a different flight path. And I got in my car, and up to St. Cloud I went, and I said, Lord, may your will be done. And Dad, there you were. And we met Dr. Danielson. And he said, I'm going to do triple bypass. And you'd already been through so much, we didn't know if you were going to make it. But you needed that triple bypass. You just had your second large heart attack. And you do the triple bypass, and Dr. Danielson said it went well. And, God willing, I think you're going to have Dad for more years. And I just could not be more thankful. And I just want to say today, whether it's the Willmar Medical Facilities, your general practitioner, Dr. Dan Fiegelstead, who's been on your team, we're thankful. Up in St. Cloud, nobody expects me to say their name, but I'll never forget these names. Dr. Applin, the cardiologist all those years ago. Dr. Teedy, a cardiologist. Dr. Danielson that did your triple bypass, I'm grateful. And your cardiologist today, Dr. Johnson, who you love extra because his grandpa is a John Deere dealer up in International Falls. But thank you to Willmar and all of the medical work that they've done on you. Thank you to St. Cloud and the Heart Center. And so 4.5 years ago, you have triple bypass, but it was another trial in your life. You couldn't have been more thankful. You were so thankful and so filled with gratitude. And something I appreciate so much about you is we never once heard, oh, poor me. You never looked at your life and said, I'm the victim. You always said to us family, oh, lucky me, I'm blessed beyond measure. And you taught us gratitude, and you taught us to never give up. What do you remember about triple bypass and the third helicopter ride to the St. Cloud Hospital? But what I want you to speak to, Dad, and what I'm so proud of, and it's such a big part of your legacy, you chose to be grateful, and you chose to never give up and be positive with adversity. So what can you tell us today? Help us when we're faced with difficult situations. What did you learn from that, and how did you?
Here's what I learned. The good Lord gets all the credit. Be that as it may. I can tell you what. First, remember now, I said he gets all the credit for keeping me alive so long. But the difference of it is, maybe you could have, you would have, and not should have, because you're doing a great job, I believe. But the difference of it is that I can tell you and I don't know if you've been in the helicopter on the way to St. Cloud or any place. Have you been?
I wanted to go with you one of those trips, but they never invited me.
Okay. Let me tell you what it's like. You get in there and it's noisy. Oh my Lord, it's noisy. Because that whirlybird, and I used to have helicopter rides in the military service. When I was in the Army National Guard, I had many helicopter rides, airplane rides. I flew to Alaska one time, and that type of thing. But the difference of it is, let me tell you, the first time that I really recall the best is the time when I had the first heart attack, that I mentally remember the helicopters so good, because there was a pilot, there was another, I don't know what you'd call them, but there's three people in the plane, pilot and the other, what would you call them, Chris?
Well, I know that there was people helping you, the medical team.
But you know what they said? They said, Mr. Fladeboe, you have to talk to us. Keep talking to us. Keep talking to us. So talking to people has never really been a problem for me. And so I asked them about the weather. I looked down, and the pattern from Willmar Hospital going to St. Cloud goes right over our farm.
You sat up and you tried to look at your cattle.
Section 29, and I saw my cattle. I was trying to load 2 cows into this trailer and that type of thing, and the one cow went in fine, the other one wouldn't go in. But knowing farmer attitude, and I grew up this way, that kind of nothing is impossible, and you just, if you want to succeed, you just work at it a little hard. Okay, so I found this sheet of plyboard, and I got it behind this cow, and I'm pushing on this cow. I got her front feet in, but she wouldn't put her back feet in. And in the process, she pooped all over me. So
this is when you were 58.
No,
yes,
she
first heart attack.
And the difference of it is, so I got back from there, or right from there, I told myself, because I felt something coming on. And it was this way that, and it got worse, and I said, no, I got to quit this. I got to quit this, because it felt like there was a rope wrapped around my chest, and there was one tug-of-war team pulling on the one side and another tug-of-war team pulling on the other side, because it was just, it was bad news. So I told myself, but because this pooped on me, I had to go and take a shower. I took a shower before I went to the
Listeners, do not go take a shower before you go to the hospital.
I drove myself in there. Yeah. Now when they put me on the helicopter, I'm feeling pretty good. And I'm looking out the window, and I talked to this guy who's ever supposed to be, he's the medical assistant. Let's call him a medical assistant. I don't know what his proper name is. But there's a pilot, and there's a medical assistant. And the medical assistant kept talking to me, and he said, Dale, you got it. You just got to keep talking to us. So, and he said, maybe you should look out the window. So I looked out the window, and we're going right over my farm, and I don't know where this cow went, but it was my farm with the truck hooked to the trailer and that type of thing, and so on and so forth. And before it takes like 20 minutes to get to St. Cloud, 15 maybe, I forget what it is, but it does make a difference. But we got there, and it all worked out pretty good.
It's such a blessing. Such a blessing.
I got a stint, and a few days later, and I wanted to hunt ducks with Ray Fladeboe so bad. He was my uncle, he's my dad's brother. And I wanted to hunt ducks because I've hunted ducks all my life. And Dr. Applin came in the day before, and he said, Dale, I can't let you go home. And I said, why? He said, you have to have a defibrillator. And God, I mean, that really knocked me for a loop. Let me tell you something. That knocked. Well, anyway, then you take it from there, Chris.
Yeah, and that was difficult. We talked about that earlier, and you really just mentally, we all have just challenges mentally, and you really had a decision to make. Am I going to be positive and accept this, or oh, poor me? And us kids and Mom watched you accept that was something you were going to have to stay longer, and they were going to put an extra precaution. Then we're going to fast forward to 2 years ago. You had one more health incident. You were 2 springs ago in 2023. Your heart all of a sudden started beating out of rhythm. You don't think you're old. You were singing at the senior citizens. You don't think you're a senior citizen, but you were singing for the senior citizens. And you lifted a super, super heavy speaker, and you had so much back pain. We'll never know for sure, but we think it caused a heart arrhythmia. And that heart arrhythmia went on for so long and so many days that before you know it, you were a very, very sick dad. And we had you back up in the St. Cloud Hospital, and you weren't doing well. Dad, we didn't know if that would be the end of your life. But again, just by the grace of God and that medical team, they got on top of it and turned that around, and we got that heart arrhythmia under control. And I'm just so thankful for that. But I will tell you this, here's what I admire so much about you. And I'm sorry to tell you, you're not a perfect dad.
Well, you're telling the truth there.
I'm not a perfect daughter. Dad, I'm going to die a work in progress. I actually want my gravestone to say someday, a work
Maybe is it going to say, with auction spirit we sing and
No,
sell?
it's not going to say with auction spirit we sing and sell. I wanted to say a work in progress for the Lord. You are not a perfect dad, not even close. But I'm still going to call you an awesome dad, a work in progress for the Lord, a dad I'm super, super proud of, a loving dad. But when I think of some general themes of your life that have inspired me, and I know countless people around you, confidence didn't come natural for you. And I already said that. You've had to work at confidence. You become a lot more confident with age. I think you're confident within your faith, and you become confident. But you really had to choose courage, because natural confidence wasn't a part of your God-given makeup. And I've watched you choose courage. I've watched you put courage over fear.
Yeah.
And Dad, with all these health challenges that you've had, you could have been, oh, poor me, I'm giving up. Instead, you said, oh, grateful me, oh, lucky me, oh, blessed me. And your glass has been half full, and you've taught us to be grateful and to thank God for every day and to never give up. And I've just watched you with the positive spirit, health challenge after health challenge after health challenge. Be positive and accept what came your way. And you've been thankful and you've never given up. And I'm so grateful for that. Now, I watch you with so much purpose, and through my whole life with purpose, serving auction clients for 47 years. You've served and served and served. You've been in real estate for 37 years. You've sang in parades for probably 40 years. And what I'm most proud of is the husband and dad and grandpa that you are. But I watch you with purpose today, and many times when I call you, Dad, you'll tell me, I'm just getting started. I'm just getting started.
That's my motto, Chris. And you know that. We all know we're not just getting started. When you're 82 and a half, who knows how long you're going to live or whatever. But if you can live with that attitude and that type of thing, that maybe there is a new day. Maybe there's a new week. Maybe there's a new month or a new year. Who knows?
And when I think of the One Pebble podcast and people choosing to make a difference, people choosing courage and impact and kindness and encouragement, you just live with purpose to this day, whether it's at a land auction and you're shaking hands and encouraging people, or whether it's at Westwood Cafe and Spicer. It is hard to go out to eat with you, and I'll tell you why. I hate to brag on you, but you're a local legend. Everyone wants to talk to you. But here's what I admire about you. You're never too good for anybody, and you always make people feel seen. You make people feel heard. You give people time to a fault. We'll be waiting for you to eat breakfast for minutes and minutes and minutes, and sometimes maybe it's an hour, because you're going to make the person or anybody that you come in contact with, you're going to give them time. You're going to give them your whole heart. You're going to make them feel seen and heard and noticed, and you genuinely make people feel good about themselves. You're kind to people. You encourage people. And that same spirit that you live in, that you're just getting started, you exude that with gratitude and purpose. So I think, if anything, if I'm so lucky to ever live to be 82, our purpose is never over.
Yeah.
We never have to stop throwing pebbles to create a large ripple effect. Dad, you love people. And I know you
I do.
And you get up with
people.
purpose.
Right.
Tell us about your love of people.
Okay. I truly do love people, and the likes of that, not because, and don't even call me a legend, and that's pretty silly, but I love people. I worked, my biggest break in the auction business was getting to work with Abner Jacobson. Now, he was a legend, okay? Let me tell you why. As myself being a young auctioneer and the likes of that, him and I would walk up the streets of Benson, going from Detroit's Cafe to the Monitor news media. And he would meet people on the street and they'd say, Abner, oh yeah, Abner, how you do? Oh, how am I doing? I'll tell you, I'm doing fantastic. So I'm walking with him with that type of scenario. And he looks over at me and he said, Dale, let me tell you something. Someday the same thing's going to happen to you. And I guess I have to say that the man was probably right.
It did happen to you, Dad. When I'm with you, and my intent isn't to brag on you, but you've lived life with a really good heart, and you've been a man of character and integrity. And I'm proud of the way that you've served people and lived your life and treated people. And that's come back to you full circle. I want to say two more things before we go. Sorry I got so emotional today. That's how special you are to me. By the grace of God, you still get to live on the farm with Mom at 82 and a half years old. You are still a farmer. Most of your land you rent out, but you're still going to plant.
A few days from now, I'm going to be planting corn.
He's excited to plant corn. He plants about 100 acres. He sold his herd of cattle at 80 years old. I was there. It's a day I'll never forget. He's still an auctioneer. His phone still rings for auctions. But most of all, he comes with us kids. He supports us. Something I love about Dad. He's never been in competition with us kids. What he says to us kids is, kids, go run circles around me. Kids do way better than I ever did. You have...
Chris, that's what it's all about.
You have been my biggest cheerleader. Many times I come home from a fundraising auction, and I really got to give you credit. I'd call you at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. I knew you wanted to be in bed, but you'd answer the phone, and you'd say, tell me all about your sale. Tell me all about it. I couldn't be more proud of you.
There's still a lot of interest there, Chris. Interest.
And I always knew you were proud, but whether you wanted to listen or not, you wanted to hear all about that sale. And you've been an awesome cheerleader to Glenn, to Mom, to Kim, to myself, to our spouses, to the grandkids. So I'm extremely proud of your purpose. You still sell real estate. You're still an auctioneer with a lot of purpose. Nobody hangs up more auction sale bills or shakes more hands or thanks people better than you and Mom. And this summer, I know you're gearing up to sing in the parades. So before we say goodbye, and there's so much more that I could say, I want you to give our listeners just 10 seconds of your auctioneer chant that you had to relearn. Just think of that at 65 years old. And then some people are going to be watching you in the parades this summer. I know you love the auctioneer song. I know you love This Land Is Your Land. I know you love God Bless America. Roll Out the Barrel. But is there any other songs that you're working on? So what would you like to tell our listeners that you're going to sing in the parades this summer?
I know 5 bit of 5, go 5 bit of 5, 5 bit of 5. 5 here, 10 there, 15 where, bit of where, go 15 bit of where, sold at $10 right in number 9.
Woohoo!
Well, I don't know.
I love it. I'm so proud. Now give us a couple lines of a song that you're excited for in the parade, for the parades this summer. I know you're always working on new songs, and you practice your guitar every day.
Well, no, and I felt bad. I didn't practice it yesterday because of the fact, although I practiced a little bit this morning, and can I tell you something? Listen to this. I've been playing the guitar for 5 years.
And you always say that you're not good. I think you're really good.
Let me tell you something. There's a guy by Rock Valley Church, and he's played in Willmar quite a few times. He is really, playing the guitar. I've been pretty blessed that the Lord has let me sing quite a bit and that type of thing, but playing the guitar just never come naturally for me. So I've been playing it for 45 years, and I'm about that much better now than I was 45 years ago. That's just telling you the truth.
I knew that you were going to work on a song. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray.
You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. The other night, dear, when I lay sleeping, I felt I held you in my arms. When I awoke, dear, I was mistaken. So I held my head and cried. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
Woohoo! Lastly, I just want to say, and I want to give Mom a bunch of credit too. She's not here with us today, but I love how much over the years you've told us kids how much Mom has meant to you. You call her your amazing grace. You realize that iron sharpens iron, and I love how much credit you give her for the man that you are. Dad, I'm super proud to be your daughter. Thank you. This was a lot of fun. We're going to do it again.
Oh, I can't wait.
Do you have one last pebble of encouragement? Encourage our listeners. Is there anything that you want to tell them?
Yeah, there is. If you want to be an auctioneer, you know what they told me when I left the auctioneer school? If you want to be an auctioneer, be honest. Be honest. Don't take bids out of the air. If I wanted to leave somebody with that alliance, that attitude, latitude, call it whatever you want to call it, and that type of thing, just be honest. Be yourself and be honest.
Amen. How about if you don't want to be an auctioneer? What encouragement do you have
Well,
for
then
people?
I'd be a farmer like I am now. I'd be a farmer. I'd be planting corn. I'm going to be planting corn here maybe in another day or two.
But what can you tell our listeners about don't give up in life?
Well, absolutely not. No, you don't want to give up. They told me at Sister Kenny, they said, you can, Dale Fladeboe, you can learn to walk again. But that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, was to learn to walk for the second time.
But you did it, and you never gave up. Dad, I love you.
Thank you.
This has been the One Pebble Podcast. One pebble, so many ripples. What will you do to make a difference?